Hello there, folks.
Hey
Welcome.
everyone.
Yeah,
Cheersies.
sure. Yeah.
Cheers. Can I tell y'all what I was doing while I was waiting for happy hour to start? Well, I'm on Amazon.com looking to see if I can find some vacuum packed mealworms for the reptile. Because that Bob, you'll be glad to know that he's a
By the
picky
way, the
eater.
reptile is not a euphemism for anything else. She actually does have a real reptile.
It's an
Uh,
actual reptile.
yeah.
Listen, he's a picky eater because of course he is. Because of course I have a reptile. Well, Karamia has a reptile that's a picky eater. A couple of things to know. And I know that if an animal is hungry enough, it'll eventually eat what it can catch. But he really prefers to starve himself to death until you feed him vacuum sealed mealworms one by one on the end of a tweezer. And they're not widely available. So, yeah. So I'm just looking for some on Amazon.com. How's your afternoon been?
Well, it's been less stressful, evidently, than yours, and certainly more mundane. I have never known anyone who has had to devote time to track down dried crickets in order to feed some sort of a reptile in my whole
Vacuum
life.
sealed. Yeah,
Yeah,
vacuum sealed.
vacuum
Um,
seal. Yeah.
I just right before I signed in, I just had a heart to heart with my teapot, and I was like, "Listen, I I love this animal, and I'm doing my level best to take care of him while you're not here. Karamia has to go to RA training, leaving Yeti with me for 2 weeks. Maybe 3. And I love him, but I'm
Mhm.
afraid he's going to die of
Mhm.
starvation or neglect or of some ghastly reptile skin disease. Because when I went in to feed him the crickets that were too big for him and he kept choking on them, and I had to cut the crickets up into bite sized pieces, and I'm never going to get over that nightmare. I'm so traumatized because it was so gross because I really hate bugs. There was an enormous, like, sheaf of skin dangling off his head. I don't know what.
Give all the details that you can, because this is what we want.
I gotta tell you, Bob. I gotta tell you. Um, I've had babies without epidurals or maternity leave. I have had husbands and a shitload of them. And I have had cats and dogs and a pig, and we've had horses. But now I have a, a leopard gecko with an eating disorder, and it's too much. Like I can't. Like
Do you think maybe in the next 5 years or so you would write another book? Maybe go in another avenue rather than the motherhood thing in
yeah.
another way. Do you think you might do that? Because I've got the title. You just gave it yourself, as a
I'd
matter
like
of
to hear it. Yeah. I'd like to hear
a
it.
shitload of husbands.
There it
That
is.
that is. Are you kidding me? You would sell.
I'd
They
finally
put
be
it.
successful at something. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
They
that would be
put it.
good.
You ever been in the airport and there's like there might be a bookstore sort of slash convenience store, and they'll have the books displayed in like a little window area. Are you telling me that some women, business women, that are going from one city to another and they're all stressed out, and they look over and there's the title, A
You're so
Shitload
right,
of
Bob.
Husbands.
You're so right.
They go
Three
right in and buy that.
three different people have given me a hardcover edition over the last handful of years of the book What the F is for Dinner. Okay.
Right,
There's
exactly.
a huge market for this kind of thing. Yeah, yeah. Although I have to say that next week, Kevin and I will celebrate our 10th anniversary. That is the
Fantastic.
longest I've been able to keep one on the leash.
And Mary and I just had our 13th anniversary.
Isn't that wild?
It
Yeah, look
was
at us.
wild, and we went out to dinner in Charleston and had a fantastic dinner. She was better than I was. She got me a couple of
Oh,
gifts. I'm
whoa.
paying for some service that she wants, so that's not really very romantic. She got me one of these pizza uh, plate things that you can cook on,
Uh-huh.
and that was really, really cool and a lovely note. But yeah, 13 years, 13 years. And I was thinking about that because I guess we've been together, obviously 14 years at least. And I can remember when I got engaged to her, um, some of my male friends were like, because she's younger. and she had 2 children. And I think it was more that she had 2 children than younger, because I know guys, and they wouldn't have said, "Huh, I would never have a woman younger than me." But the idea that their kids had grown and that
Yeah.
I was embracing. Let's see, Hampton I think was 6, and Madison was 11, something, and she had braces, and I was taking that in my life, but I was just so in love with this woman, and she was just so incredible that I was going, I think that's going to work out well, and it did, and it really did, and they're great kids. Mary blew me away though when we were out at dinner. She said, when we met, I was Landon's age.
I'm going to scream. Hang on, I need a drink. Hang on. Did you also need a drink when you heard that?
I did. I ordered a double.
Well, I have to say happy anniversary to y'all. And I can't, I've never kept one this long. I think it's because he's tired.
Sometimes you just have to throw him back, right?
I think he's a little tired. He was upset because he loved his truck, and of course it got wrecked. Yeah. And he's like, it's going to take me a while to get used to a new truck, but I guess eventually I got used to a new wife.
And that's chapter 10 of a shitload of husbands, ladies and gentlemen, that'll be coming in your local bookstore within the next 5 years.
Let's say hi to some folks. Roxanne Martinek. She's at the JDRF ride in beautiful La Crosse, Wisconsin, home of the world's largest 6-pack. Tammy Johnson is in Lexington, Kentucky. Karen Gilmore says, do the reptiles shed their skin? They do. And sometimes Yeti has a hard time getting it off, and Karamia has to give him a shed bath with a Q-tip. And that can't be my future. That can't be my future.
No. Although it is a Saturday night,
It was a Saturday night a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. Let's see. Hi to Jason Tannery in Grand Junction, Colorado. Karen Turner's in Spokane.
And right up the coast in Vancouver. I didn't get her last name. Her name is Karen, and she is in Vancouver, Canada, which could be my favorite city. It's only the top 3 anyway. Just a beautiful, beautiful place.
Spokane, Washington State, we just had that thing on the show, the top 10 most underrated places in America, and Washington State was number 1.
Listen to this. Julie Brown said, hello from Alaska. We are losing about 6 minutes of daylight each day now.
Oh, wow.
I bet that's a thing in Alaska. We have, you've been there several times, so have I. I bet that is a thing that they're going, oh, it's a little darker now,
I've been to Alaska in the wintertime.
You were, yeah.
And here's the thing about, I know you get used to it, but when it's getting dark at 3:00 in the afternoon, you start looking around and going, who's up for a drink? This is not a healthy lifestyle for me.
No.
It's like me and my bestie and Tony were like, let's find a bar. It's not even 4 p.m., but it's dark and it's cold and it's getting ready to snow, right?
But I've walked out of bars at midnight in Alaska, and it's like now. It's daylight, and it is the freakiest thing for it to be 12:00 at night or thereabouts, and you come out after having a couple of drinks, and it looks like, wow, surf's up. It's midday.
I would love to. There was a movie, and I think it was called Insomnia. It was Hilary Swank and Al Pacino. Do you remember? And it was set in Alaska during during the summer when it was daylight constantly, and Al Pacino started losing his mind because the sun was always shining. Do you remember? I can't tell you when it was out.
Vaguely.
But it was really, really good. I'll have to watch that again the next time it shows up on HBO. Janelle's mother-in-law is in the hospital with broken ribs. Everybody, y'all send some love and some prayers for healing to Janelle's mother-in-law, because that's got to suck. Michelle McAnalyn from West Virginia, praying for Maui. Oh my gosh, you guys.
Let's pause on that for a minute.
Did you have a chance to see, Bob?
It was hard for me to watch. I'm wearing this shirt tonight in honor of Hawaii. And before we went on, Heather and I were talking about, what has been done to the Hawaiian people over the centuries. I've been to Lahaina twice, and I'm one of these guys that just really appreciates a beautiful, beautiful car drive. I'm not talking about, 2 or 3 hours. I'm talking about 6 hours. And my favorites in the world are US 1 up the California coast, which is just absolutely magnificent through a big Suriname. The Ring of Kerry in Ireland, which is hard to describe. It's so raw
And
and
green and breathtaking.
natural, unreal. But the drive to the Seven Sacred Pools in Lahaina in Maui, I think is the most beautiful stretch of road that I've ever taken, because your senses are assaulted. There is a gorgeous field of grass with cows grazing, and behind the cows grazing, there is the Pacific Ocean. And to the right are palm trees. And then to the far right are green, verdant mountains. And it all comes together in one amazing bouillabaisse of sensory overload. And I've just never seen anything like it. I really do believe Hawaii is the most beautiful place on the planet. And I've been to Tahiti, I've been to Bora Bora, I've been to a lot of places. And Hawaii is just magnificent. When I saw that, and I saw what happened to Lahaina. By the way, George Harrison had a very, very private home there. It's hard to get to. I don't know if it's changed, but when I was going to it, the roads are like this. The roads are like this, and the tour buses cannot get back there. At least they couldn't then. I don't know how it's. I hope it hasn't changed. And so it was only people like me who would take the drive, rent a car, and go to see it. The seven sacred pools are seven pools that drop into each other. So there's like one here, one here, one here, all the way down, and you can
Mhm.
swim in the one down at the bottom, and maybe some of the others. It's overwhelming, and to see that, I could only watch so much of it. I could only watch so much of it, and the idea you and I were chatting, and you said, "Oh my God, people are running into the Pacific to get away from the
They
flames."
were. They were jumping into the ocean. Um, and of course, there are people online complaining that their vacation plans have been ruined. But I'm like, these people have lost their homes and their lives. So, and I get it. I get it. I would love a vacation like more than anything, and I understand. I've never gotten to go to Hawaii. It's on my bucket list. I so get it. I so get it. But that's the sort of complaint that you do just inside your head.
Yeah,
Like, you don't let that complaint outside your mouth because it makes you sound like a dick. And
yeah,
that's not something any of us are, I think, pursuing. And I have to say, there's a comment that I want to call out from Melanie Stevenson. And she said, Sheri, Joan Benson passed away on Tuesday. Melanie, I'm so sorry. Joan lived next door to my grandma Blackhair.
oh yeah,
And I will now tell you my favorite Joan Benson story. Okay, so first of all, let me tell you about Joan. She was beautiful. And her husband treated her like a queen. And every woman in my family would study the two of them and go, the hell does this woman have that this man treats her like this? Because, this was not like daddy was a meth cook. He wasn't exactly a good husband or father. And Joan's husband, Rich, oh my God, what a good guy. I went to high school with their daughter, their oldest daughter, Susan. So when my cousin Renee was little, I was maybe 9. So Renee was 6.
hmm
She broke a rule. She was not supposed to leave the backyard. And that was the deal. My grandma told her, you are not allowed to leave the backyard. You can play outside, but you can't leave the yard. Well, Renee left the yard. And who brought her home but one of the Benson kids? And my grandmother was so mad at her because for safety, she didn't want her to leave the backyard because she's 6. We don't want her to wander into traffic, right? And Renee was so upset. my grandmother was like, why did you, after I told you to stay in the yard, why did you disobey me? And Renee is sobbing, 6 years old. She's like, that mother told me to. That mother told me to. And my grandmother said, the Blessed Mother told you to leave the backyard. And Renee's like, not the Blessed Mother, the Blessed Mother. The Blessed Mother came to you like Fatima and told you to leave the backyard. It took a while for Renee to calm down. And finally she got it out. The Benson Mother. Oh, that's very different from the Blessed Mother.
Yes, it is. Yes,
so
it is.
It was a
But
great
all
story.
mothers are blessed. All mothers are blessed.
It was a great story. And I have one other Benson family story. So fast forward many, 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 many years. And my dad is in full like gangster mode, dealing drugs, selling drugs, using drugs, shooting guns, having teenage girlfriends. Like it's Scarface on a budget. Okay. It's like the worst. One night we're all sitting there eating dinner. And my father had a blow up love doll that someone had given him as a joke. I mean, the classic, like the classic inflatable love doll. And my older brother said something snarky under his breath about the love doll. And my grandmother put her fork down and she said, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, I have given my life to you. I don't have a husband. I'm raising these children and this filth and perversion is in my house. My father got up from the dinner table. Hey, Melanie, see if you remember this. My father got up from the dinner table, went and got the love doll, which was fully inflated, carried her past the dinner table, looking just as surprised as she could be, went out into the backyard and started firing shots. And she went flying across the fence into their pool.
Into their pool?
They had an above ground pool, yeah.
Let me get this straight. To show respect to your to his mother, actually, he took it out, stood it up, I guess, fired an actual gun. It blew up and went into the neighbor's pool.
He fired many shots, and all of us, and this is what it's like. This is what it's like growing up in that kind of environment. We're at the kitchen table and we hear pop, pop. Because in real life, gunfire sounds different than it does in the movies, especially when it's in the backyard.
Yeah.
Pop, pop. And I know better. Like I have learned from birth, when it's getting really crazy like this, don't make eye contact, don't have any facial expression, betray nothing. And as soon as you possibly can, get out of here, either escape to your bedroom or escape the house. So I'm completely silent. And my grandmother is like talking to the Blessed Mother, the Blessed Mother, not the Benson Mother in this case. And she was like, Mary, it's my son. And I know you have a son. And I'm like, don't get nuts, Grandma.
Yeah, right.
Let's the savior of the world. And your son is a meth cook. Anyway, he came back in and he goes back and he puts his gun away and he sits back down at the table. Are you happy now? As though we should apologize to him.
Isn't that amazing?
So I'm going to raise my glass to Joni Benson.
Narcissists are amazing.
Awesome woman.
Narcissists are amazing, aren't they? That he could transfer the whole thing around and blame your grandmother for this horrific event that he just created.
Yeah. And it's a crazy thing because like my kids don't know a lot of these stories. They've never really been old enough. They are now, but they've never really been old enough until now. And so every once in a while we'll be talking about something and I'll go, oh my God, that reminds me of the time. And the two of them will just like their faces drop and they're silent and they're like, why have you never told us this before? Well, it doesn't come up. Right?
It's hard to work into, I don't know, a Christmas get together, that especially a story like that particular story, but it is priceless. And I do think you have to write a shitload of husbands as your next book, because you could incorporate these stories, therefore, pass this information down. I don't know why. I don't know why you haven't done that yet, because you had two successful books, and it was the subjects were very good. You know, like children based, raising children, and that sort of thing.
But
But
when I
you have had such a crazy ride. I
but
don't
of
know why you
course,
don't do that.
Bob, when I wrote those books, I had not yet acquired a whole shitload of husbands. Comes with
Well, that's
time.
true too.
And
Yeah.
if you're
No, but
wondering why does this woman have a shitload of husbands? Did you just hear the story I told you about my childhood? Is it possible I don't have good judgment where men are concerned?
no, no. Well, all right. That aside, and husbands aside, the story that you have to tell is really pretty amazing. The stuff, in Wyoming, the stuff in Philadelphia, the father, your grandmother. I mean, and then you end up, on a national radio show. What's the likelihood of that happening? It really is your story. I don't know why you're not telling that one.
Well, partly right now, I mean, just in all seriousness, I don't know why my life is so chaotic right now. Like, I thought you would, and I would have thought, hey, why don't you be a single mom who gets up at 4 a.m. And is doing this all by yourself? That's probably pretty chaotic. My mental picture of life, and I bet this is true for a lot of us here tonight. My mental picture of life at this point was just a lot more chill. We're going out to dinner. And instead, I'm sitting here talking to y'all about how I can't find some vacuum packed mealworms to feed the lizard with an eating disorder. Like, how
Okay.
how is it never calming down?
Can I? I'm just, I've never had a friend. Well, I've had two or three friendships as long as yours, but never with a woman before. And I'm just wondering if it's this way. Is it because that subconsciously you saw what your grandmother did and how she was taking care of everybody under the sun with what she had, and what
Oh
she
yeah.
had was not very much. And so you, because you are more affluent and successful obviously than she was, you are taking on all of these things because you feel if you don't, you're not really living up to this woman who you revered so much, um, dedication to others.
Well, I will agree with you up to a point. I definitely, of all of the children, I'm her. Like, I really live the most closely to the way she did. But not because I'm afraid of not living up to her, but because that was the loving and empathetic and compassionate role model that I had. To me, like, I learned, and thank God, because I could have learned how to cook dope and shoot love dolls. Instead, I learned how to make lasagna and always find an extra place at the table. So she was my most favorite and most important person in my life. And so of course I emulate her.
I have to jump in and read what Tammy Hendrick Johnson just said. Chaos truly is life. If there is no chaos, I feel completely unanchored. We just move from one crisis to another and try not to jump ship.
Yeah.
So is that what you're going? Are you so used to it?
The thing is, and Kevin does not know how else to say it other than, well, you're soft. But everything sounds like a good idea to me at first. Everything. Whatever you float at me, I'm like, you know what? That sounds like a pretty good idea. And it's not until I'm in it that I realize, we have a leopard gecko with an eating disorder. Like, it's not until I get in it that it really gets
Yeah,
crazy. And I
yeah,
think,
yeah.
Bob, that, and maybe this is a woman thing more than it is a man thing. Maybe this is because we are women, we are traditionally, we tend to be more kind of
Nurturing.
the captain of the family ship.
Yeah. No,
Because
that's
Kevin,
very true. That's very true.
left
Without
to
a
his,
doubt.
if Kevin was the captain of this ship, we'd all be wearing loincloths, eating
Right.
without forks, and not
Right.
celebrating any holidays.
And definitely no flossing. I mean, without a doubt. No, I totally get that. I hear what you're saying about I thought I would be at this point, But if we don't actually make some sort of movements to get there, and I include myself in this, then we never get there, and it's our own fault, is what it comes
Well,
down to.
one thing it was my sister wife's birthday last week, and we spent the day together just hanging out and talking, and the the one thing that we have succeeded at beyond our wildest dreams is forging a family together out of all these sort of separate pieces that were roaming around. And that's a huge, like for me, coming from where I come from, that's a great big deal. But we did that because we took it on. But we took it on, Bob, because we wanted it. Like if I wanted to wear a loincloth and eat beanie weenies with my hands and only watch ESPN, promise you, I have that life if I want
But
it.
it doesn't have to be one or the other. Those are two extremes. I mean, what I think most people want, I would like, and I'm probably closer to it than you are for a variety of reasons. I don't have the same amount of responsibilities, but sort of a peace at one point, and I am pushing myself to try to say to others that I have had to help take care of, you got to stand on your own a little bit. I need a break. And
Well,
I think that you have a harder time doing that than I do. And I can write that off and will own it to selfishness on my part.
so okay, my earliest memories were the sound of laughter from another room.
Mhm.
Because I was, from the time I was little, I was in my grandmother's house, and she had all these, like all my aunts and the neighbor ladies, these women were always over. They were always laughing and playing and being silly. And that to me is happiness.
Right.
So the idea of just every day being really quiet, that doesn't sit well with me at all. That I don't
Why?
want that.
Why? Okay. I mean,
I don't
this is,
want it.
I don't know if we want to stay with this because people are saying, can you have Todd on as a guest sometime? I don't know where to go with these things sometimes, but
Can I just say, y'all, if Todd wanted to be here, he'd be here.
right,
Todd left. Todd is gone and he's happy.
right.
We release him and we please, like we didn't kill him.
And we
He's
like
not in the
Todd. We love
basement.
Todd.
We
He
didn't
wanted,
fire him.
yeah.
Todd quit.
Todd wanted to do radio,
Another kind of radio.
another
Yeah.
kind of radio. So, where were we on this?
You don't understand why I don't want quiet. You don't understand that, and I
I
get it.
don't. I really don't because I thought, uh, having known you for so many years, and you do have a very peaceful side within you that is um, spiritual, that is very quiet. But then there are always so many things that you're taking care of that take you away from the Buddha, as you've referred to many
Well,
times.
part I like I like there to be people here, but not necessarily in the same room with me, if that makes sense.
Oh, I get that. No, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that. And
I get
listen,
that. Yeah.
and there's a lot of days, especially now when it's just me and Kevin, and I spanked him at checkers last night, like we'll do something goofy, we'll go for a walk or whatever, we'll go to a movie.
Mhm.
But my happiest is when there's a lot going on, but I can step away from it and be separate from it. The idea of just like my mom lives alone in total zen, quiet, peace, perfection. Everything's immaculate.
No, I
Nothing's
don't
out of
see that
place.
for you. I don't see that for me, frankly, and I definitely don't see it from my own wife. But that's an extreme. Once again, that's an extreme.
I'm
I
just
get
not.
I get what you're saying as far as having people around, but you're in your own little area, but you know that they're there. There was a guy that I knew, and he was actually from Hilton Head. He was a designer of homes, and he designed one of his homes to have an area that looked down on the kitchen area and the living area, but he could do his work up there. So he was removed from the family, and this was a really brilliant house designer. So he's an unusual person.
Removed but not separate,
Right.
removed but not
Right.
absent.
And everybody knew that he was working up there, but he could there was a family energy, and yet he didn't have to be in it all the time. Now, somebody had to take care of the family. Then I guess that was his wife. So there's a little selfishness going on there, I suppose. But that's what you're talking about.
Listen to what LaDon Bedsall said, because this just completely, I should have this like on a t-shirt. There's such a difference in having a peaceful side and having peace. Sometimes the greatest peace comes from knowing that your home is full. See,
Okay, I get that.
that's it for me. And I like to feed people, and I like to fuss over people, and I like to look after people.
Okay,
And
there we go. That
I'm a
if you're saying that, there's going to be some other stuff, some other crap that comes along with that that's not quite as lovely as what you're describing, right?
Well, I can say that I am by nature a caretaker who
Right.
enjoys looking after you and making sure you're fed and happy and all of that. I can be all of that, and still I don't deserve a leopard gecko with an eating disorder. I have
I
done
can't
nothing
argue.
to
I can't
deserve.
argue with that at all. No one could. No one could.
If you could have seen this creature take the cricket into his mouth, the leg is sticking out, kind of like a cigarette, kind of film noir detective. And he goes like this. He goes, and the cricket comes back out. And then he looks at me like, biatch, the cricket is the size of my head. Perhaps you need to cut it into bite-sized portions. What have I done? Just because I want to give you a meatball and make sure that you have plenty of pillows on the bed, that turns me into a caretaker for deranged reptiles? I don't think
Actually,
so.
it does. And I do this, and I'll call myself on that too. When we do that, when we give you a meatball, what was it? A meatball on a bed? I didn't.
A meatball and plenty of pillows on your bed because I'm picky
And
about
plenty of pills in your bed. We
that.
say to whoever the person is, whether it's a brother, a sister, a child, or whatever, I'm your guy. I'm your gal. I'm gonna get that pillow fluff for you. I'm gonna go get you that meatball. There are no meatballs in the house right now, but there are meatballs that are approximately 5 miles away, and it's 10 o'clock at night. But I'm gonna go get that meatball as soon as they get that read on you. You're done.
I guess, Bob, but I think that it's all about like in your network of family and friends in your little tribe, it's all about cooperation. Like, I'm going to get you this meatball because I want you to have it. And I know that if I ever need you, I know you're going to be there because that's what love is. That's what connection is. Like, I had some stuff go sideways this afternoon, and I got my younger daughter and said, I need your help, Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I gave her the list of things, and one by one by one, she got them done. No, no
That's a
drama,
win. Yeah,
no
that's a win.
drama. No
Yeah,
drama.
without a doubt.
Look what Shay Breed said. She said, I live alone now, so I don't have chaos at home. Work has plenty of chaos. When I'm off, I'm constantly busy. I'm either working in the yard or volunteering or dealing with things my lawyer needs. Not enough time to get it all done. It's just true. Like, that's just life. When I see on Instagram, oh my God, when I see on Instagram something like lazy days of summer by the pool, I'm like, well, first of all, you're a liar because I've seen
Yeah.
your Instagram feed before and you have twin 4-year-olds. So ain't nothing lazy. You may be having crazy days by the pool, but you ain't having lazy days by the pool.
Why are people doing that? Why I see that all the time. Just here with my boo, hanging out at the lake all summer long, and you kind of know them, and they're broke, and you just say, why are you presenting yourself this way? I'm as guilty as anybody else of, here's a great shot of Mary and me at a restaurant, and we look pretty good that night. She always looks great, and put it up on Facebook, and it's a vanity thing. I'm trying not to do it very much anymore. But what is it about all of us in this? And is this a passing phase? Like maybe Marvel heroes are a passing phase in the movie industry. Is this a passing phase with human beings that we have to say to the world, we are just absolutely loving life now? And maybe you're not.
Well,
I
I
don't
for me, as somebody who like does the social media part as like my full-time job, I think
Yeah.
it just shows loneliness. I think we're so lonely for other people, and I think when people do that, it's their way of reaching out. It's
Heather,
That's an interesting thing to say. Yeah.
I was going to say that the behavior isn't new. The way that we can manifest it with social is new,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I
we wouldn't
guess.
have expressions like keeping up with the Joneses if that behavior
Right. That's
wasn't
true.
old.
Yeah.
Um,
That's true.
and you know, like I'll be honest, like I love looking at other people's posts, even while I'm secretly going, "Oh my god, are you on vacation again?" Like I love looking at other people's pets and houses and kids and clothes. I love looking at all of that.
Social media is really just a continuation of what reality TV started for us, in the early 90s. It's that looking into somebody else's life and wondering, do they have it easier, better, worse?
I
You know,
think that's very true, and you're getting a lot of really positive comments tonight on your reflections on that. That's very true. It's like the average person's reality show. I mean, I've said for years that everybody wants to be in show business, and you can see it on, especially on TikTok. And
Yeah.
you know what's really amazing? Some of the folks on TikTok, and I'm not on it, but Mary is, and she'll send me something once in a while. And some of the things are very funny. But what I've noticed is whether it's TikTok or Facebook, um, folks know how to be actors a lot better than I think everybody thought 25 years ago. Everybody thought, oh, an actor is trained. And they are. And there are obviously the guy who's in Oppenheimer, there's no comparison to the person that is saying, this is what's in my refrigerator today. And it really pisses me off that we don't. That's an actor's actor. But you can see some things that are posted on social media where people are doing a little comedy sketches or commentary or whatever. We're all raised looking at each other on screens. And that is a really rudimentary form of actor training.
Hmm.
We know how to use the camera, our expressions, our faces. Not all of us, but a lot of us.
There are so many extraordinarily talented people out there who will never be discovered. They'll never have their big break. They'll never be stars. They'll never be rich. But there is so much crazy, extraordinary talent. There are so many people who are unbelievable singers, so many people that are funny as any stand-up comedian. There's so much out there. And it's interesting, especially with Gen Z, that they'd rather watch that than quote unquote, you know, entertainment that's been mass produced for them. So we're just in interesting times, and people people need a creative outlet. I retweeted it actually because it really stayed with me and I thought about it. And here was the basic premise of the tweet. You ever notice how rich kids study art? Right? And you say to yourself, well, that's a sign of your privilege that you can study art, that you have, first of all, that you have the resources to go to art school, and that you're not terribly worried, apparently, about making a living. Well, so that was the tweet. And then somebody else came in on top of that and said, or is it that human beings are just wired to be creative? And the minute you don't have to worry about starving to death, creativity is what you lean into. And
Yeah,
I
that's an interesting way
loved
to look
that.
at it. Yeah, yeah.
I, I
Let
was going to say that one of the most positive things social media has given people is the ability to be creative without having to have, power and influence and money and a big break.
Gatekeepers. Yeah, all the
just for the
gatekeepers.
joy of it. Yeah. I was touched by Leslie Johnson, who just said, sometimes people say, I'm going to post this because today was just a good day. And I think
Yeah.
there's something to that, you know? I mean, there are so many days in our lives that are really crappy days. And so, Leslie, that's a wonderful observation that maybe sometimes, and perhaps I'm taking it wrong when I see somebody going, you know, best summer ever. Maybe they're just having a good day and they're so happy that they got one.
I
That's
follow a lot of people much more closely than they realize, and I feel like I know them. Like I'm way into the parasocial relationship thing. Like I feel like I know a lot of y'all. Um, and I have a sense of their lives. Like I'm aware of, you know, are they divorced? Have they moved recently, changed jobs? Do we have a kid going into high school for the first time? Did we just lose a beloved pet? Like I
right.
really have a sense of people. And there are people that I see who will post something up there and they are just having a well deserved, awesome, good day.
Yeah.
And they're so freaking glad that they actually got out of the house and went and got a Jenny's ice cream that they want to share it with the world. And I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I'm going to remember what she said and look at some of those posts maybe in a different way, or maybe not. we'll,
The
we'll
good
see.
thing about the good thing about social media is like I know some of my neighbors and all of their dogs and most of their kids, but only some of my neighbors. Whereas I know hundreds and probably thousands. I mean, I feel like I know these people on all the platforms because it's a different relationship. You know people differently on Twitter than you do on Instagram, differently on Facebook than you do on, Threads or Mastodon or whatever. And I like that because I'm a people person. Like I'm super curious about people. I'm way into people. And I
I
want to know what they've eaten for dinner and, you know,
yeah,
I just want to know all that stuff.
I don't really want to know all that stuff, but I do like little bursts that say, "Wow." My friend Mike Jeremiah, who still lives in New Haven, and I've known since I was a teenager. He has an unusual job. He is the middleman between a college and a performer, and the performer could be um, a rap performer. It could be mostly contemporary performers. He books them and is the middleman between the artist and the college. He books colleges, right? And so he's still living in New Haven, and he sent along to me a link to a thing called Growing Up in New Haven. Well, I grew up in North Haven, which is a totally different scene from New Haven. New Haven is very urban, North Haven is very suburban. Um, but I went, all right, well, I'll look at it. And most of the things that people are posting about New Haven, I don't know. But all of a sudden, out of the blue, somebody posted, does anybody remember a pizza place called the Rose Garden in North Haven? And I went, wow.
Isn't that where your dad used to take you guys?
Every Friday, he'd pick up my grandmother, take my brother and me. It was before my sister was born. And we'd go to this restaurant in not a dicey part of town. There's no dicey part of town, but it was like a little industrial area. But there was this restaurant, and you would walk in, and my mouth is watering already. And there were like booths all the way around, leather high booths, and then the tables in between, and literally a swinging door. It was a full swinging door, not like the old West, where the bar was. And there'd be people that, weren't having the restaurant experience. They were just in the bar drinking. And so we would sit down and we would order this this big mozzarella pizza. They call it an abitz in New Haven. I don't know the reason why, but that's what it's called, an abitz, like AHBEETS. I want a large abitz, just mozzarella. And then he would get up and go into the bar, and he would have a shot and a beer and talk with whoever the guys were there or the bartender or whatever. And there was a giant jukebox that was like stereo. And I would be given a couple of quarters and I could select whatever song I wanted to play. And he would come back and he would listen without really saying anything to my selections. So I was very careful. I played a lot of songs he liked. And so this pops up and I could not believe it. And I replied to it And I said, "You have no idea how much this place meant to me as a kid, because it was like this island of pleasure and calmness and sanity in a crazy household every
And
Friday night for
and
2 weeks."
one more thing, it was the only thing y'all really did together as a family.
It's true. Yeah.
So of course,
Yeah.
children, that kind of thing is so important to children, and they notice it more than we
Than we
realize
think.
maybe as an
Yeah, it's
adults.
true.
I
That's
I
true.
want to say hi to Sue Carey Bradley. She's in the Mid Hudson Valley tonight, and tomorrow is her birthday. If anybody wants to say happy birthday a little bit early to Sue Carey Bradley. Donna Lung and her husband just celebrated 9 years of marriage.
All
They
right.
celebrated quietly at home because they both have COVID. Oh no, but they have a mild case. Thank goodness.
Good.
Thank goodness. Yeah, there's something about like your kids, the stories that they'll tell about their childhood. A lot of those stories will be the silly, goofy things that you did as a family, because that's the kind of thing that they really do
I'm
remember.
getting some of them now, spending some time with my girls and Mary in Charleston over the summer, because they're both working there now with their husbands. We go out to dinner, and I would hear a story that I had absolutely no realization they remembered, or that it even happened.
And you hear it from their perspective. And
From
isn't
their perspective,
that
it is.
interesting?
Well, it's interesting, and it's also a little disconcerting sometimes.
Well, especially for you, because you would have made a great playwright. You like to set the scene and control the characters, the dialogue, the plot, and the outcome.
Right.
And of course, real life doesn't go that way. In real life, you set the scene and here are all the characters, and you have an idea in your head about what's going to happen. But then the way they experience it and remember it is off script. So
Right.
I know that's challenging.
It
It's funny
is.
because Kevin and I were talking. We were driving home from somewhere the other night, and we were very pleased because a couple of the older kids were talking about goofy things we did with them when they were younger. And I was like, see, it was a pain in the ass when we did it. We had to drive 6 hours. We had to find a place to stay. We had to stand in line. We had to give ourselves colonial names or whatever, whether it's Williamsburg or a theme park or whatever. But those are the things that's the good stuff, man. That's what they remember. That's what matters. And I have yet to have a kid say to me, Mom, it means the world to me that when I was 9, you spent fill in the blank amount of dollars to get me something. That's never what they it's never what they remember.
I've
It's
I've
never what they care
noticed that
about.
kids will also catch you, and as they're older, you know that they love you, but they will sometimes, and I experienced that this summer, sprinkle a little something like, "You didn't know that,"
Yeah.
and check out my reaction. Like, I won't say which daughter, but one was saying, "Yeah, well, it's nice to be here in Charleston. I remember when so and so I was going to school with, and her family had quite a bit of money, and we stayed in." And she names a hotel in Charleston, which is about right now, right around starting at $750 a night.
Oh my
And
God.
she was saying, "Yeah, we stayed there for 5 days, and then we flew in his company's jet to wherever it was. I'm working with you on, we're building this and getting up at 4:30 in the morning.
We
So
ain't on
I'm,
jets and staying in hotels. Mm-mm.
well, and also, I'm reaching for an excuse for myself for not knowing that she stayed, in this amazing hotel, didn't pay anything, and then flew in a private jet I was unaware of. But my ass was getting out of bed at 4:30 in the morning. That's my excuse. I'm trying to keep literally a roof over our heads in a lifestyle that was a bit above my reach. It was very, very hard work. And so I missed some things along the way.
Yeah.
And when it's colored in, when the paint by numbers are colored in, it's like,
It's
wow,
it hurts a little bit, like it
it hurts
stings.
a little bit. Yeah.
It stings. And that's, you were like You were and are and have always been since you were a teenager a really good provider. And unfortunately, sometimes a really good provider is so busy providing and provisioning that he's not there for the party.
Yeah, I think it's true. I don't. I hate to use it as an excuse because it's an easy one, and anybody can do that. But it's the only one I've got. You
I'll
know.
tell you, I'll tell you what's really trippy. So my house has always been full of kids and people, and with Karamia being a dancer, like we spent so much time with other kids and other people's families and stuff. What's trippy for me now is when one of those kids will text me or DM me on Instagram and go, "Hey, Miss Sheri, remember that time?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, did we do that in front of another person's child?"
I
do
know.
we
I know.
do we not have any sense at all? So let me say hey to Heather Meldrick.
I'm gonna grab a little wine.
Go
You
get
go
a
ahead.
drink. She said I've gotten my Andy to look forward to a weekly listening of true weird stuff, TV off to listen, random date night. Thank you. I'm so excited for tomorrow's episode while Bob's away. Let me tell you what it's all about. Okay, are you ready? Are you ready? It's so weird and good. Tomorrow's episode is about the mystery of the black-eyed kids. Heather, can we talk? So, like, if you're not familiar with the black-eyed kids, the story went viral in 1996 when a reporter for a newspaper in Abilene, Texas, wrote about an encounter he had in a strip mall parking lot at about 9:30 on a weeknight. And these kids approached his car, and it was very weird. It was very weird. And when he really looked at them, they had no pupils, no irises, no whites, no sclera, no whites of their eyes. They were just
They were radio consultants.
black. So this phenomenon has been documented around the world, and it actually, a lot of people think it's like internet creepypasta, that it just is some bogus thing that started in the 90s. But actually, there are a lot of documented stories about these black-eyed entities that way, way, way predate that. And the creepy thing is they can't come in without an express invitation. So you may open the door to your house, they won't cross the threshold without being invited. So there's a lot of mythology layered on top of this. Anyway, it's a super fun story to tell. And that's tomorrow's True Weird Stuff
Excellent.
episode.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Very good. All right.
I want to say hi to
Can I
Crystal
before you do that?
Bianco and Meredith Miller. Yeah, go ahead.
We kid about I have two best friends, Sheri and my friend Jeff. And Jeff was demoted approximately 20 years ago to a silver best friend, and Sheri ascended to gold best friend because, of course, I make money with Sheri.
Well, and I threw you a wedding and gave you away.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And
Jeff,
prevented the wedding planner from hanging that giant BM art piece up at your wedding.
BM, Bob and Mary in flowers.
You saw Heather's reaction. Nobody thought Bob and Mary, okay? But who helped you make that go away?
You've got the title, okay? I don't have to tell me on it anymore, okay? Anyway, Jeff has he still has an amazing career. He's a weatherman. He does weather for television stations all over the state of Nebraska, believe it or not. And he has had some health issues over the last couple of years, and he became very ill several days ago. And his wife Helene took him to the hospital, and he was in the hospital for 2 or 3 days. He couldn't eat. He was throwing up, and the whole thing. And I'm just very, very pleased and happy to say that he is out of the hospital. They couldn't figure out what did it. Who knows? I mean, who knows what it was? But he is back at home, and he may be actually watching us right now.
I
I'm
hope
not
he
sure.
is. Hey, Jeff.
He had not slept in like over 24 hours, so he may be asleep right now. He was going to join us tonight. I think he may be asleep, but he may watch this on the replay. They live in Palm Springs, and so get the bounce a little bit later. But he's doing good, and he is he was my best friend. We have known each other since we were 19,
Yeah,
and
teenagers.
met in a radio station
Um,
in Massachusetts. And he and my friend John Lambus, we all met at that same little tiny radio station. We've known each other since we were 19, and I'm just so glad that he's feeling better.
when you got the call today that they sent him home and they were like, "You're good. We don't know what happened, but you're fine." God, the
Yeah,
adrenaline dump
yeah,
because I was so nervous. So Jeff, if you and Helene are watching this, hey bud,
right.
um, Allison Bell said she thought that I got gold best friend status because I took you for your colonoscopy, and I did. But I also took him to Chick-fil-A afterward because we know our boy travels on his stomach.
I have been with you so long. I have actually had two colonoscopies, and you took me to the first one, and I think Lynette, Mary's best friend, took me to the
Yeah.
next one, or it may have been Max. It may have
I
been
think
Max.
I
I
took you
can't.
to one, Max took you to one, Lynette
Yeah,
took you to one.
yeah.
Basically, Bob, we fight. It's my turn to deal with Bob's colon. No, Sheri, it's my turn. Sit down, Lynette. I'm his gold best friend. I will talk to him about his colon. It's my turn. Oh, Max. Yeah,
Who can
that's how beloved you are. Yeah.
who can blame you? You know.
Your colon, like everything else about you, is superior. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's my book title.
And I will say, when I took Bob for his colonoscopy, the nurses thought it was freaking hilarious. They were all listeners and they could not believe we showed up together for
Yeah.
this colonoscopy. And I was like, I'm his asshole buddy. What can I tell you? Right.
Oh,
So
real nice, real nice.
we,
You know what? I'm just glad there were no selfies back then.
no, but I got the report because, when you take somebody for a colonoscopy, they come get you
They
and they
come
let
out.
you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
how it went. And let me
yeah.
just tell you, you would expect Bob Lacey's colon to be first rate, and it was.
Thank you. I don't want to brag. Well, I think this is a really good way to sort of wrap it up here tonight. Kind
Let
of,
me let me tell everybody what's coming up on the show tomorrow. The People's Movie Critic, as you know, is all back from visiting his daughter in Japan, and he's all recovered from his jet lag. He's reviewing Oppenheimer tomorrow. And you know what's interesting, Bob? Talking to Lamar, he's not a history nut the way we are. Did you know? Like Bob
right.
and I, before the movie Oppenheimer came out, like this is our History Channel, like nectar of the
We
gods. Like
actually knew who he was.
we're
You know.
way into the Cold War, both of us. And if
Yeah.
you listen to True Weird Stuff, the Cold War is all over True Weird Stuff. Like I'm way into it, but Lamar not so much. And so I kind of envy him. He went into Oppenheimer cold, and here's what's cool. He went into Oppenheimer kind of cold and came out feeling exactly like you do about Robert Oppenheimer
Right.
and the Los Alamos thing.
Right.
So it's a terrific movie. We'll see what the People's Movie Critic thinks about it. I'm seeing in the comments, like Kimberly Fluke said it was fascinating, and it is. It's a long movie. Now you're going to need a snack and not a large drink because it's over 3 hours. Even if the theater loses power and you don't get to see the end, it's still over 3 hours.
It's an important thing for people to know. There are so many folks, none of which are with us tonight, I'm sure, that are so ignorant about what our parents and grandparents and great grandparents went through in this country to keep us free. And this man, I mean, it was a horrific thing. And it's still controversial when they dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It was a horrific thing. But Hitler was trying to do the same thing to New York. And so, that's part of it. And what he experienced after the test went and after the bomb was dropped by fellow Americans is heartbreaking. And it's a story that I think everybody should know.
Can I tell you guys something really cool that I learned after going to see Oppenheimer? So, I mean, like everybody who knows me knows that New Mexico. It's my heart. I just love New Mexico. I've been all over the state, Shout out to all of our listeners on Magic in Albuquerque. You can visit Los Alamos. Now, most of what there is to see is quote unquote behind the fence because it's still a government property controlled by the Department of Energy. But, and Bob, listen to this because this has you, not Mary so much, but definitely you. Twice a year, the United States Army opens the doors of the Trinity bomb test site, and you're allowed to visit twice a year. The next chance that you have in this year is coming up on October 21st, and then there's another day in April. You have to make a reservation. I don't think it costs anything, but you have to make a reservation, and you better get there early because when they hit capacity, they close it's like the Willy Wonka thing. They close the
Is that
gates.
where they actually hit the
They
button?
take you to the testing site where the gadget is still standing, where they
Jeez.
had the bomb.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
So that's twice a year. And if you happen to be, if you're one of our listeners in Albuquerque or Colorado or Arizona, if you're within driving distance, jump online to the Los Alamos site and make your reservation. You can go on October 21st. I think that's a Saturday. And you can actually go behind the fence and experience some of the stuff that you'll see in the movie for real. So it's just, again, twice a year, get a reservation. October 21st is your first chance. How much would you love that?
I would love to do that. And I want to end with Teresa Broom tonight, who said, "My dog just puked up her dinner. I should have taken a picture and posted." And that is where we are right now in America, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great night tonight and a better day tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow on the regular show with the People's Movie Critic. And he's his Talking Lamar's about Oppenheimer and True Weirds about the Black Eyed Kids. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We love you. We'll see you next time on Happy Hour. Cheers.